Hello humans, I'm the Alien Doctor, but you can call me Alien, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to build a coral farm slash seagrass farm that you see behind me in today's video. This is of course for Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Now the video will of course be split up into timestamps and chapters so you can see which part of the video you do not want to watch and skip over it. But yeah, I will basically talk to you about why you want to farm coral, why you want to farm, or more specifically why you want to farm coral fans, and then also talk about why you may want to farm seagrass, and then I will go over the farm, how it works, and the certain design choices for it, and then last but not least I will of course give you the tutorial on how to build it, including a full materials list. So yeah, let's get into the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is why you would want to farm the coral fans, because this farm produces two things. It produces coral and optionally it will also produce seagrass. So you can see here all of this coral here and all of these coral fans here. Now generally you're not super interested in the coral unless you're a builder. However, for the coral fans you may also want it just for building. However, for a technical person you may want to, farm these for, well, the reason I'm about to show you. So if we pop over here to this little, I guess, diagram, if you like. It's not really a diagram, but I don't really know what else to call it. But basically, back before roughly 1.16, we could use buttons in mob farms. Now, buttons were good because that meant that the mobs would see buttons as a full block and fall down them. Now, they kind of patched that bug, which means we now have to use trapdoors. Now, trapdoors are intended as mobs for seeing them as a full block. So if you use trapdoors, they're never going to break because the whole idea of the trapdoor is that it is seen as a full block to mobs. So mobs will naturally try to walk off this. However, the problem is that, as you can see here, if we have just a one block gap, it is incredibly easy to walk over. And that's not just for the player, that is for the mobs as well, which may greatly decrease your mob farm rates, which is a bad thing. Now, the way around that would be to put a 2-block gap between, your trapdoors like this. But the only problem with this is that you've got significantly less of a spawning spot. You've effectively, lost a block because, you've had to make it bigger. So you'll end up losing loads of blocks, and the more blocks you have in a mob farm, the more spawning spots there are. Meaning that if you have a massive spawning platform, which could be 3 blocks wide, for example, however, it's only 1 block wide because you have trapdoors on both sides, then, that's going to be, greatly decreasing your rates to what they could be, which, is not something that you want when designing or building a mob farm. So the obvious alternative to this is coral fans. Now the current problem with coral fans, or not the current problem, but the old problem with coral fans is that in Bedrock Edition, there's no way to farm these things. However, that has changed, and I'll show you and talk to you about the farming of them inside the farm in a little bit. But yeah, as you can see over there by that farm, there is now a way to farm coral fans and just coral in general. And if you're wondering what the difference is between the coral fans and just the normal coral, if we actually get a piece of coral here, they can't be placed on the side of blocks, whereas the fans can be. And the fans, are acting like full blocks. So mobs will see this like they used to see buttons and like they see open trapdoors as a full block, meaning that they will walk down, and because they don't really have like a hitbox that you can stand on, they're not a physical block, mobs will just straight up fall through them and then into some form of kill chamber or war stream or whatever the mob farm is for. Now, that's really, really, really good, and they can be hard to get these things. So obviously, normally you just go to, if you wanted a small amounts of these, you could go to one of those coral reefs. However, obviously there is a limited amount of coral inside the coral reef thingy, or whatever that biome's called. And if you're like me, you probably want a sustainable way to farm it. Now, this is a sustainable way. Now, unfortunately, this farm does use bone meal. However, as far as I am aware, the current only way to actually farm up coral is to use bone meal. So, unfortunately, yeah, we're kind of just going to have to... that's the only downside with this farm. I'm not a massive fan of bone meal farms. But yeah, unfortunately, you are going to need to have a good source of bone meal to get this farm to work, and that is the only way to farm coral fans, as far as I'm aware, and same with seagrass as well. So now's the point in the video where I talk to you about why you want to farm seagrass. And there's only really like two reasons. Number one, you might be a builder. And if you're a builder, then wow, because I'm not a builder. I don't know, I couldn't think of anything good to say then. But the other thing is that that's a baby turtle, that's so cute, he can stay. But yeah, you can actually use seagrass to breed turtles. And yeah, as you can see, these guys are going to breed and they're going to create their egg thingies. And yeah, that's going to be pretty pog. But yeah, either way, that's literally the only reason you'd ever want to use seagrass. Other than that, I don't know why you're going to want to farm it. And most people building this farm aren't going to really want the seagrass. Now, luckily for you, there are two ways to use this farm. One that does get you seagrass and one that only gets you the coral fans. I only designed this for coral fans. The seagrass is kind of just a byproduct, if you like. So now I'm going to go over how this farm works. So it's incredibly simple to use. You've got to make sure this lever is flicked, which it is meant to be, and then you simply get into this minecart, flick this lever. So you would go back and forth and you would tape down your controller button or use an auto clicker or some way, because this farm is AFKable if assuming you have some sort of way of holding down the mouse button. So I'm just going to hold the mouse button and I'm in creative. But yeah, if you're in survival, if you hold down the mouse button on either a silk touch tool, it doesn't have to be a hoe and it doesn't have to be wooden, or shears, then you will get drops from this farm. So if you use a silk touch tool, then you will actually only get the coral and the coral fans, which is what most of you are going to want. Whereas if you use the shears, you will also get seagrass. Now the problem with this is it's not completely AFKable, because if you use shears, the shears will lose durability, which yeah, means that you couldn't really stay here forever unless you had some sort of cheaty unbreaking a million, shears. So that's why I would recommend using a silk touch piece of gear, assuming that you only want the coral and do not actually care about the seagrass. So that is kind of the basics of this farm. However, how does it properly work? Well, this lever obviously will power this powered rail, which is where the player would sit. And they'll go back and forth. Now this has to be a powered rail as well, because if there's a normal rail there, then the minecart will not bounce back. Now we could, and I did originally try putting powered rails all across here. However, you don't really need powered rails to be there, and you sometimes go so fast that you don't properly mine it or that sort of thing. So if there is block lag, then putting it slower like I have here is certainly going to help. And seeing as if you're playing on a laggy realm or server, there is a good chance that you are going to be getting block lag, unless, of course, you are using the most up-to-date version of Bedrock Dedicated Server with that option to disable block lag or whatever as set to true. But anyway, so yeah, this lever will power this block, which powers the powered rail, but it will also power this piece of redstone dust. Now down here, it will power a simple comparator clock. This is super simple. I made a redstone video all about redstone clocks, so yeah, go check that out if you're interested. And this is a comparator clock. Now, if you watched my video, then you will know that normally comparator clocks look not so much like that, and a little bit more like this. However, I have added in these repeaters and this block, actually, to give in a little bit of extra timing, because this comparator clock is extremely fast, as you can see here, whereas with these extra repeaters in and block, it is actually a lot slower, which is good because we don't need something this fast. And I didn't really want to use hoppers, because, yeah, this is probably cheaper, but you could use a hopper clock if you wanted to, or really any type of slow redstone clock. It doesn't have to be a comparator clock there, but in my opinion, that's the cheapest. Now, what that does is that simply powers this block. Now, above that block, there is a dispenser, and inside that dispenser, you will probably have a bunch of bone meal. As I mentioned, it is a shame that you have to use bone meal, but it's the only way possible to farm these items. Now, if we just destroy all of the items in here and then, turn this farm on, as you can see here, all the dispenser bone mealed the dirt, causing seagrass and coral fans to grow, as you can see right here. You will then destroy them. So let's just imagine we destroyed this real quickly. And what will happen is they never do that. That's just because I threw it in. When you actually mine it, they won't fall through that gap. It's just because I threw that in with creative. But as you can see, the item will flow all the way to the top, over this chest, down into here, and, well, yeah, into this hopper, which then will go into this chest and collect you a bunch of different blocks. And as you can see, you actually do get quite a lot from this farm. As you can kind of see here, you get loads of seagrass really, really quickly, and you also get loads of coral and coral fans fairly quickly as well. Now, these chests are simply here because chests are obviously 1 pixel smaller. For some reason, there's a bug where sometimes if blocks are floating upwards and there isn't a chest here, then they get like stuck in between. So like imagine this is just a full-size block. Sometimes they get stuck like in between there or something. So by using a chest, they don't. Also, it means the item is definitely going to flow over the chest, because sometimes it doesn't flow over the chest. Obviously, you can see here we've also got buttons. You could use signs if you wanted to. But yeah, these are here just to stop the water from going into our collection stream. So the only other thing to point out about the mechanics of this farm is that it is 3 blocks high. You may be wondering, well, actually you can get 2 tall seagrass. However, the majority of the drops or the plants that are spawned in this farm are only 1 block high. So why, is it 3 blocks high? Well, we have to make it 2 blocks high, because for whatever reason, if it's 1 block high, then this stuff just does not grow. And then it's a 3rd block high because these 2 blocks have to be water sources, whereas this top layer is not water sources. As you can see, only this part of it is water sources, because that means that then the water will obviously flow over here. And if it was all water sources, it would not float. So, as you can see here, the other thing is, well, you may be wondering, why didn't I do the minecart track like this and have it, significantly smaller, and I guess also would keep the cost down a lot? Well, the answer is that when you're going back and forth, occasionally there are certain types of coral that are just weird and have, like, as you can see here, the coral it's a weird shape, and sometimes you can just perfectly avoid this stuff, and I don't know how, but yeah, when I tried the minecart rail this size, it just did not work properly. I actually did a live stream of me designing this farm if you want to see all the design choices and things like that. But yeah, doing it this long with the minecart track did not work. It meant that I did not harvest all of the coral, which was kind of annoying. So yeah, that is why it is technically 1 block longer than realistically it should need to be, but it is what it is. But yeah, other than that, that is basically it for the mechanics of this farm. So now let's get into the tutorial for this farm. Okay, so now for the tutorial of how to build this farm. But first of all, of course, the materials list. So you are going to need 17 of any solid blocks, 44 glass, but it doesn't have to be glass if you don't want it to be, 9 pieces of dirt. You could use gravel, but you'll need some extra blocks to make sure the gravel or the sand does not, fall, because gravity blocks and stuff. 5 pieces of redstone dust, 1 hopper, 2 levers, 2 redstone repeaters, 1 comparator, 2 water buckets for creating an infinite water source, 6 of any type of button, but you could use signs instead, 2 powered rails, 3 normal rails, 1 minecart, a bunch of bone meal, 4 chests, and 1 dispenser. You're also going to need a silk touch piece of gear if you want only coral from this farm, and lots of shears if you want seagrass plus coral, because shears will use durability, whereas the piece of silk touch gear will not use durability. Also, make sure to check the pinned comment down below, because if I messed up any of the numbers, then I will give you an updated amounts list basically for all the materials down on the pinned comment. As well as that, I will also put any updates for this farm on the pinned comment as well, so make sure to check that out. Okay, so to start with, build up by and we're just because like symmetry and stuff, we're going to align it with the center of that one. So build up by 2 blocks and then place in a dispenser here and put the bone meal in there if you feel the need to do that now. Followed by a piece of dirt on the top, then surround that original piece of dirt in dirt as well until you have a 3x3 grid totaling with 9 dirt. Get rid of those 2 temporary blocks, and then decide which side you want the window to be affected, essentially. So for symmetry, we are just going to do it the same size as how we did it on this one, which is obviously this side. So then you are going to want to place in your glass all around these 2 sides like this, and build up by 3 like I have done here, so that you have it like this, kind of looking a bit like a TIE fighter, but not really. Then you're going to want to place in a temporary block there, followed by some glass here, and then some glass here as well. Then get out your chests, place them in there like that. Then temporary block here, a block here, and blocks here and here in all these locations to basically create yourself a little bit of a trench, as you can see right here. You're then going to want to place in your chest right here, and then you can get rid of that glass and place in a hopper going into that chest like so. And then you're obviously also going to need to box this in like that, and then place a piece of glass there. And then in the materials count, I did also include for 2 pieces of glass there. However, technically you don't need to. I just thought it kind of looks good like that. And the same on this side as well. So fill this in. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is get your 3 buttons and place them in like this, and then you can place in your water into the trench. Now, if you place, an item into there, then it should, just go straight into the hopper, which should then go straight into the chest. And because this block is glass, you can open that chest. So obviously make sure the water source is in this block and none of the others, so that the water will actually, flow like it's meant to. Then you're going to want to come to this side, place a temporary block here, and then blocks like this. Some buttons here like that, and then place a temporary block here, and then a block here, another temporary block, then a block here. You can destroy those now. And then you should end up with something like a face if you also do it on the other side. So as you can see, this is sort of a face here. You can see that there's the mouth and, anyway. So after you've done that, you're going to need to place a lever here. And then this is where you are going to get out your rails. So put a powered rail here, your 3 normal rails here, and then a powered rail here. Power this block, or I guess technically you could also put the lever here, or just make sure it's powering that powered rail, basically. I'm actually going to put it here because I like it here, but you actually don't have to do it like that. Okay, so next you're going to want to place in your lever here, followed by... Why have I got... get rid of that glass, we don't need it. So then, temporary block here, permanent block here, destroy the temporary block. Place in your redstone dust here, a block on the ground, and then block here, then a comparator here, then a block here, repeater on a 4-tick delay, followed by another block here, redstone dust, block here, another repeater on a 4-tick delay, a block here, and then redstone dust here. And then you're going to need to place a block actually on the back, or the underside of the dispenser, and then place a block here, redstone dust there. There you go. Make sure that the comparator is flicked into subtract mode. And the next thing that you're going to need to do is actually fill this up with water sources. Now, the best way to do that is to not just spam water sources everywhere. If you have ice, then you can use ice instead. However, simply place water here, 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 and here. That's going to make this bottom layer water sources. And then place in a bunch of temporary blocks on this layer, followed by only water sources on this line at the front, so that the water flows over here down into your collection trench. You can then get rid of these temporary blocks like this, and then also make sure that these are all water sources as well. Okay, so I actually did mess up here. Don't waterlog your chests, because if you do, then the water will flow through onto the other side. You have to redo that section like I did, so that was a bit of a mistake. But yeah, that should be your farm done, other than obviously the minecart, which you can place in here. If we then, go into game mode survival, jump in the minecart, flick the lever, we should go across, and as you can see, is now growing all of the seagrass and the coral. Now you may be wondering where to position your mouse / crosshair. Now you're going to want to position it exactly, well, it's kind of, there's not really a specific place, but in my experience, the best places to do it is generally somewhere along that back line of blocks. So if I can go a bit forward, or I guess I might have to get out and show you, but somewhere like here, and then obviously you'll just go back and forth, mining all of it like so. And yeah, as you can see, that is a super simple coral fan / seagrass farm. It's also fairly cheap as well. So I do hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe and join the Alien Empire today. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!